The Sharon Moore era is officially over. The Kyle Whittingham era has begun fully now that the Citrus Bowl is over. Let's talk about the Citrus Bowl and where the Wolverines go from here, right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday and Happy New Year's. We're back and doing a Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports network anywhere in America. Today, I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you to all of our everydayers, and thank you for making us your first listen. We are going to dig into the Citrus Bowl a little bit. Not, I guess, probably a ton. Then we're going to talk about the Kyle Whittingham era starting and going. It's really here. The regime has changed. So that is the plan for today for the 3 segments. Kind of be half and half, to be honest. So let's start off with the Citrus Bowl. I went into this game feeling like whatever happens, happens, right? Like if they get absolutely annihilated, cool. If they really, I didn't think they'd dominate, but it's just interesting how things ended up going in this game, because I really didn't honestly think that they were going to make it a game against Texas. And ultimately they did. And the score ended up being a 2-score game in the end. It took a lot of mistakes, particularly from Bryce Underwood, to get there. But they made this much more of a game. I don't want to kick a man on his way out. Wink Martindale also, his end didn't really hold up this time. And I think it's kind of emblematic of the team that he had for the majority. I do know that there was a belief that things were a little bit better personnel-wise than what he had. But a lot of things in this game weren't terribly different than what we saw from Texas last year. Heck, the first drive was almost identical, except for Texas finished with a field goal, right? It was, all right, it's a stop for basically nothing on first down, tackle for a loss on second down, massive play to extend the drive. One of the differences, obviously, in this one was not Quinn Ewers. I was just thinking of last year. It was Arch Manning, who obviously had an incredible game. But some of that is on the defense. Some of that is on Arch Manning and his capability and Wink's failure to adjust. Texas rushed for 264 yards. When was the last time you'd ever think that Michigan would give up 264 yards? And they gave up 221 in the passing game as well. So not great, as they say. 155 yards for Arch Manning on 9 carries. Their running back, Christian Clark, had 20 for 109. Michigan rushed for 208 yards. I mean, Bryce Underwood had almost 100 yards rushing in this one. Bryson Cosdall was just shy of 100 yards. And Bryce passed for 199 yards, but had the 3 interceptions to go along with 2 touchdowns. There was a lot of good and a lot of bad. Now, I think one of the things the way that I look at this game and looked at this game before, I didn't come out of this game with this idea of, okay, now that the game has happened, I'm going to look at it differently. I still look at it the same, is that you're looking for bright spots from a personnel standpoint, as well as things to fix, right? I think that is weirdly an important thing coming out of a game like this. Now, Michigan, what's really interesting, obviously, is that Michigan had a 4th quarter lead. It was 27-24. It was the 2 interceptions that, 2 of the 3 interceptions that set up those scores, if I recall. One of them might have been I start to get a little blurry mentally here. One of them might have been the field goal, but that Texas ended up having. But ultimately, Michigan was in this game. Defense was doing its job a lot better in the first half than it was in the second. In the first half, it was tied 17. Michigan should have had a lead and having missed a field goal. Didn't happen that way. But nonetheless, I mean, they just got, Michigan scored 10 points in the second half and Texas scored more than that, 24. So not really great closing out, which is not what you're accustomed to seeing with Michigan. It's actually not even what you're accustomed to seeing from Wink Martindale. But now that's over at this point, right? Wink is gone. I think it's unfortunate he's not going to be remembered very fondly here. I get it, but I still think it's unfortunate. It was only 4 years ago he was considered to be the best defensive coordinator in the NFL, right? Like 5 now, I guess, because we're talking 2021, right? Like when Mike McDonald came, it was like, well, he's an acolyte of the best in the NFL. So it's an interesting change, but I think that there's some obvious negatives that came out of this game, and those are things that can be worked on. Bryce Underwood's throwing mechanics were just an abysmal failure. And some of his decision-making. There was one point I was standing in the back corner of the end zone that Michigan was going towards, and he forced it into, technically it was double coverage. It was kind of a little more single coverage, but still it was close enough to double coverage into Donovan McCulley, came up short. And meanwhile, Andrew Marsh is standing, and you couldn't see it on the TV copy because I kind of looked at it again. Andrew Marsh completely wide open. When I say completely wide open, I don't mean like he beat his guy. I'm talking he is so alone in the end zone that he's like about to phone a friend because he's lonely. And he couldn't see that. Like that would just have been an easy throw. So, it was a long throw, but like an easy throw and catch as long, and all of that. There's some improvement in some things over the course of the year, but they're scant. His footwork has been better generally in the last, take what I'm saying as it's meant. When he has his form correct, his footwork has been better. He doesn't have the same happy feet he had midseason. But you don't have to look very far. I looked at JDew51 on Twitter, John Dew. He clipped clipped one throw. I think it was the pick, and talked about the interception because that was an interception where he was doing some Uncle Rico type of stuff. That's just not going to work. All right, we're going to continue on. We got more to talk about this game, and then we'll get into Kyle Whittingham and some of the things he has said since, kind of where things stand. We got a lot to cover, so let's get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, there's nothing like college football season, tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever, but actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Choose what, I misspoke. I opened up the Game Time app to look at upcoming college football games. And, they're expensive because the remaining ones are the college football playoff, but still you're getting in a lot less into those college football playoff games for a lot less than you think. The app is incredibly easy to use. I went from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes, and I love that you can see the view from my seat before buying. So I know exactly what I'm getting. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Thank you so much to all of you for making us your first listen. But if you want to dig a little bit deeper, we got the Everydayers Club. That's where you can go ad free. You can connect with me in the Discord. You can ask me questions. Working on being more timely. I'm not glued to my phone generally, but we're working on being more timely and also seeing notifications. But I'll answer all your questions in there. Maybe more so than we do on the mailbag, meaning inside info. Not the type of stuff where it's like, well, I can't really say and what have you. We're going to answer a little bit more directly there where we can. Of course, can't tell you everything. But yeah, it's $50 a year, $5 a month, whichever you want. I think you get the price of admission is really that Discord. So go to lockedonwolverines.supercast.com or check the show notes for more. And I'm telling you, it's a good type of deal. So, all right, trying to get our thoughts together here. Field allergy, kind of forgot about that whole thing because it's been a month since a game. And already was kind of worn down just from the travel and all of that. But we are soldiering through here. So let's spend the first half of this segment continuing to talk about the takeaways from the game. I think what was good is you saw a lot of guys, not all right, like Andrew Marsh having 3 catches for 10 yards, not great. However, if there's a place where maybe you can, like, he definitely seemed frustrated, like in some of those plays where he's not seen. He had 6 targets and 3 catches for 10 yards, weirdly 16 yards after the catch. So one of those, I don't remember, must have been for a loss, but I don't remember it. I think that obviously the special teams they were incredible. Injuries after injuries, holders and punters. I mean, I know one of those names is double duty there. What a difference having Kerry Coombs. Hudson Hollenbeck tied for the second best game of the season for him. That's not saying a lot because he's not been very good. And I regret to inform the Hollenbeck family that if they come after me, but like that, he has not been very good. But averaged 48 yards, had the 52-yard punt, a heck of a lot better. And then you have Andrew Marsh in the returns. He had 143 yards on kickoff with a 51-yarder. And, I mean, that's just a world's difference, right? Like, world's difference. Had a 10-yard punt return. There was just one moment where it's like, he actually caught the ball and ran with it. Novel concept. I mean, it looked like heads and shoulders different than what we'd seen from the J.B. Brown experience. And you kind of almost wonder watching that. And also the forced fumble and getting the short field and all of that. You almost wonder what that looks like if you're in a situation where that happened more throughout the year. Now, special teams didn't solely lose any games, but it was never a strength. And I think even just having that, it would have been enough to be like, there's something. They're working with something here. So, I mean, we're used to Michigan on kickoff, just touchback. Maybe they run it out, gets 14 yards. So this is kind of a good transition because we don't have an insane amount of time here. Kerry Coombs, according to Josh Henschke, is being retained for that position at special teams. So he would be one of the holdovers. I think that's wise. I think it was an incredible audition. Kyle Whittingham had to be sitting up there in the booth salivating over a lot of different things, whether it was the good or the things that were just relatively easily fixable that just didn't happen, didn't work. So I think that was really like interesting just to see that what Kerry Coombs was able to do in his first Michigan appearance. It was a fun joke that I kept on having every time we saw him. Like, there he is, Michigan legend, Kerry Coombs, who had yet to coach in a game before yesterday. But you can see like the closeness, like he's getting hyped up. The players are getting hyped up around him. That's pretty great. All right. So as we transition into some of the things here that we're hearing, strength and conditioning coach is likely to be Doug Elisaya. Again, I'm getting this from colleagues. This is not my inside info. Because here's the thing is a lot of the people that I would talk to are still kind of waiting in the wings to find out whether or not they're staying. I've heard really good things about Sean McGee and his retention. It's still up in the air about Lou Esposito. I think that depends on Lewis Powell to some degree, but they might, have Lou do interior, Powell exterior, but it's not necessarily a sure thing there. Jason Beck is in, according to first Pete Thamel and then Kyle Whittingham. He confirmed that on ESPN this morning. There's some interesting things that he had to say. We'll get to those in segment 3. But we're still waiting to kind of see on Jay Hill. Yesterday, there was like a little bit of like some maybe, it seemed like some BYU people were starting to kind of chirp a little bit. Not chirp in the way that like Ohio State fans chirp, which by the way, LOL Ohio State. Yeah, I think like you're starting to see some of these guys come together. Sounds like Ron Bellamy has been told he's not being retained. So, I mean, you've got Kerry Coombs to do some of the in-state stuff because he's got those same relationships and was incredible when he was at Ohio State as far as the recruiting piece. So we're starting to see some things to come together. Now, I haven't really had, like I've said, I like to be open and honest. I've not really had my ear to the ground. I've kind of checked in with some different colleagues to see what they're thinking just periodically. We treat these bowl trips like a mix between Intel, bowl game, and vacation. And I will honestly tell you that the majority of this trip has been on the vacation part because don't get a lot of chances to get out of state and enjoy some sunshine otherwise. So Intel was a lot slimmer than it normally would be. There's a couple reasons for that. But it's interesting seeing all these things come together. Kyle Whittingham said on ESPN yesterday, for those of you who are watching the game at home, you already saw it. If you were at the game, you didn't. I obviously didn't. That he expects to have the staff 90% in full, 90% done by the weekend, which might mean I'm going to be working crazily on the flight, which is probably good for my flight anxiety, to be honest. If I end up having to work foisted into action in those moments. So, all in all, there's a lot of things that I'm very excited about, and really just ultimately just having an adult coaching staff. Jason Beck, man, you look into that guy. Only 3 years. Like, it's funny, Kyle. Like, some people might look at it and say, "Oh, he's only had 3 years," and yet they'll say at the same point, "Yeah, Kenny Dillingham should be here." Now, obviously, I was on the Dilly train, but like. His first year, it was like, okay, Syracuse got a little bit worse. I'm sure that was a personnel issue and stuff like that. I haven't looked too deeply into it, but like going to New Mexico, it went from okay, right? Like it was like 45th in the country to 4th. And then Utah, after yesterday's game, ended up finishing 4th. Let's talk a little bit about that a bit more with what Jason Beck brings to the table, as well as some interesting quotes from Kyle Whittingham this morning on ESPN. Let's do that here in just a moment. But before we do Fridays are Friday already feels different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better every Friday night before games tip off. FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame. Oh no, my reflector fell, as did my light, and it wasn't really lighting me. Anyway, okay. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame. A limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. If you're watching, my entire lighting setup for this is one of these little aperture lights. I love apertures. The MC. You can change the color. You can fully change the color, and a reflector. The whole goal was to. I was a little too far away. Wonder if that'll work here. Probably not. I'm probably just going to mess up more things. Let's see. Oh, this might work. This might work. Just to make sure you can see me well. Hold on. Kinda. Just want to make sure that you see me well. I don't know that that's bouncing as well as I want. I could always spend the rest of the show just doing this. That might be what we do. Anyhow. Okay. So, Jason Beck, to continue on, had an incredible run at Utah, doing the same thing. And you look at the game that he had yesterday with Devin Dampier, who's like 300 passing yards, 200 rushing yards. I mean, that's what you want. That's the way you debate. I think that's got to be something really great. Now, he's only had a couple of years, but he seems, again, serious, and he has a very amazing run-first offense. I know Utah fans were saying, like, well, Kyle Whittingham leaves and suddenly the offense is opened up. Well, it's still the same offensive coordinator that was running the show. And it's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing works now that Kyle Whittingham, who's been driving essentially a Chevy pickup, sometimes he's had something a little bit more, like maybe it's a souped up Chevy, maybe it's like, sometimes he's driving a Dodge Challenger, and it's like, but not like the RT or the Scat Pack or the Dodge Demon. Heck, he definitely was never there. But now he's got the Maserati. Now he's got the, essentially, if he plays his cards right, he's actually got a Bugatti Chiron. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. And I think that was one of the things from the bowl game that you look at and you see he's got to be looking at and saying, I can use that player this way compared to how it is currently being deployed. So I think that brings a lot of exciting possibilities that he's able to going to be able to look at the team in the ways that he's been able to, having taken in at least one of the practices. He wasn't there the day that we went. And I know he was, working on some other things behind the scenes, but for him to okay, now I'm going to have a bunch of racehorses. Before it used to be like, I've got to mold these guys and whip them into being what I need them to be. I've got clay and I can mold them. It was a blank slate. And now it's a little bit different now, right? Like he's got guys that he can take a look at and say, all right, this is already pretty much formed. Now I just got to chisel in the details, right? So I think that that's going to be really interesting to see how he handles that. I think with some of the transfer portal piece, according to EJ Holland, I believe it was Celeste Moa, who Michigan was in contention with. He visited for the game, but ended up sticking with his Utah commitment. Now he says Michigan's in the thick of it. That's going to be the other thing. Transfer portal opens tomorrow, and who's going to end up coming around? Then the other question is who leaves. What I was kind of surprised by, this is the kind of thing that I wanted to get to, is that Whittingham had talked to every player in the Michigan team, at least the ones that have more eligibility, to my understanding. And he raved about he said every single one of them. He's like, every single one of them exemplified what it means to be a Michigan man. They all had great character and everything. And I know we all kind of, you wink and you nod at some of the guys that maybe are a little bit more problematic in certain ways. But, if nothing else, this shows that guys are on their best behavior, and that they already have a healthy respect, obviously, for Whittingham. And from there, now he can mold the team. And I think it's going to be crucial, right? Because you want a disciplined team. And that was one of the things that you just keep on hearing over and over. He brings discipline, he brings discipline, he brings discipline and toughness. And it's off the field and on the field discipline and all that stuff. And that's sorely needed, I feel, in Ann Arbor at the moment. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited. All right, we're going to keep that short. That's how short we're keeping it. Because, like I said, we're very worn down. Let's watch some football today. I think that's the plan. So anyway, thanks for watching and thank you for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.